Owen had always been captivated by the past. History, in all its layers, mysteries, and forgotten tales, was what drove him. As a historian, he lived for moments of discovery, for finding pieces of the world that had long been forgotten or shrouded in myth. This fascination led him to Romania, a country steeped in history, legend, and a rich tapestry of both beauty and darkness. He had arrived in the small mountain town with the hope of uncovering something extraordinary, but tonight was shaping up to be far from ordinary. The rain began falling heavily as Owen's car sputtered and then stalled in the middle of the dense forest. The dark, winding road had become slippery, and in his attempts to navigate the sharp bends, he had lost control. The sound of rain pelting the roof of the car was deafening, and the flashlight on his phone flickered weakly. His plans of getting to a local inn were now compromised by the storm. Frustration built as he attempted to restart the engine with no luck. A bit of panic set in as the storm grew fiercer, but Owen knew he couldn't just sit in the car all night. With no other choice, he decided to venture out into the rain and look for shelter. Through the downpour, Owen saw a faint glow in the distance. A building, standing alone amidst the tall trees, its silhouette framed by the mist. Curiosity piqued. He made his way toward it, stepping carefully over the slippery forest floor. The building slowly took shape as he got closer. A two-story structure made of dark stone, its time-worn exterior seeming to blend into the night. He had stumbled upon a hotel. The sign above the entrance caught his attention. Luna Stakogie. The name rolled off his tongue in a strange, almost melodic way. Scarlet Moon, he translated silently, a name that sent a shiver of intrigue down his spine. The faint glow of candlelight flickered through the windows, casting long shadows on the ground. Owen didn't hesitate. The storm was only getting worse, and something about the hotel felt welcoming. Stepping inside, Owen was immediately enveloped by the dim, flickering light from candelabras mounted along the walls. A strange sense of timelessness washed over him. The interior was opulent in a way that felt both ancient and otherworldly. The dark, lacquered wood of the walls gleamed under the candlelight, their delicate carvings of vines and branches evoking some forgotten, distant age. Deep green carpets covered the floor, their color reflecting the soft, wavering light. The hotel felt as though it belonged to a hidden time, one where the boundaries between history and fantasy blurred. Owen glanced around, taking in the surroundings. Opposite the door was a steep staircase leading to the upper floors, and to the right, a massive wooden counter stood behind which a lone figure appeared. The man behind the counter was the kind of person one would expect to see in a place like this. Gallant, with a classical air about him. He wore an impeccably tailored suit, the fabric a deep midnight blue, with delicate gold stitching that shimmered in the candlelight. His dark hair was neatly styled, his eyes were sharp, and his smile, though warm, had a mysterious quality. He seemed to fit the atmosphere of the hotel perfectly, as if he were part of the building itself. "Welcome to the Scarlet Moon, sir," the man said, his voice low and smooth, with just a hint of hoarseness that made it sound like he had just woken from a deep sleep. Or perhaps, like he had been waiting for Owen. His words were thick with an accent that Owen couldn't quite place, and his gaze held an intensity that made Owen's heart skip a beat. The man handed Owen a brass key, its edges worn but polished, the metal gleaming under the dim light. Owen nodded gratefully, sensing something almost ritualistic in the exchange. There was a strange kind of gravitas in the air, as though this encounter was part of something far larger than an ordinary hotel stay. "Your room is upstairs," the man added, his eyes holding Owen's for a beat longer than necessary. "Enjoy your stay, sir." Owen barely had time to respond before the man turned away, disappearing behind the counter without another word. His footsteps were soft, like the sound of a shadow passing by. With a sense of eerie fascination, Owen took the key and made his way to the stairs. The creak of the steps beneath his weight echoed in the silence, and the hotel seemed to hum with an energy he couldn't place. The scent in the air was a mix of wood, earth, and something sweet, almost like orange and chocolate. A strange combination, but it filled the room with a sense of warmth. As Owen entered his room, the atmosphere continued to captivate him. The room was decorated in the same old-fashioned style as the rest of the hotel. Deep mahogany furniture, heavy curtains, and a large canopy bed draped in rich red fabric. The air felt thick, charged with something ancient, like he had stepped into a different century altogether. He slid under the blankets, the soft fabric against his skin making him feel both comfortable and uneasy at the same time. He told himself it was just the unfamiliarity of the place, but he couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting. About an hour and a half passed before a sound from the hallway jolted him awake. It was a faint dragging noise, like something heavy being moved across the floor. Owen hesitated for a moment, his heart beating faster. He swung his legs over the edge of the bed and cautiously approached the door. He cracked it open, peering out into the hallway, but it was pitch dark. The dragging noise had stopped. He stepped into the corridor, listening carefully, but there was nothing, just the faint smell of the air and the distant crackling of candlelight. Feeling foolish, Owen turned to head back to his room. But then, just as he was about to close the door, a voice emerged from the darkness, soft and low, like a whisper curling through the air. "Why aren't you sleeping, baby boy?" Owen froze. His heart raced as he slowly turned to see who was speaking, but the hallway remained empty. The voice had come from nowhere, but it felt close. Too close. His pulse quickened, a shiver crawling up his spine. Suddenly, he felt as though the hotel itself was watching him, waiting for him to make the next move. The strange, ominous feeling was overwhelming. Owen stood in the darkened hallway, unsure whether to call out or retreat to his room. But before he could decide, the dragging sound started up again, faint and eerie, and this time it was coming closer. What had he walked into? What was the scarlet moon hiding? And who, or what, was waiting for him in the darkness? A shiver crawled down Owen's spine. His breath caught in his throat, his heart hammering against his ribs. Slowly, cautiously, he turned. The man from before stood in the darkness, just barely illuminated by the weak glow of a candle on the counter. His eyes, deep and unreadable, seemed to catch the light in a way that was almost unnatural. The smirk on his lips was slow, deliberate. Owen swallowed, forcing his voice to work. "I heard something. Thought I'd check." The man tilted his head, his expression unreadable. "And did you find what you were looking for?" The way he said it, low and intimate, sent a strange thrill through Owen's body. He couldn't explain why he felt so on edge, or why his skin prickled with something that wasn't entirely fear. "No," Owen admitted. There was a noise, something being dragged. A pause. Then the man chuckled, the sound deep and indulgent. "Ah, the hotel is old, you see. It tends to make its own music at night." Owen's fingers curled at his sides. That wasn't the kind of sound a creaky building made. But before he could press further, the man stepped forward, closing the distance between them. He moved with the kind of grace that sent alarms through Owen's instincts. Too smooth, too precise, like something practiced over centuries. "You must be cold," the man murmured, his gaze flickering over Owen's bare arms. "The storm is unforgiving tonight." Owen was cold. The chill of the hallway crept through his skin, but it was nothing compared to the heat that coiled low in his stomach under the stranger's gaze. I should go back to my room," the man hummed, considering. "If you wish." But there was something in his tone, an invitation, a challenge. Owen hesitated, his curiosity warring with common sense. There was something off about this place, about this man. And yet, "What's your name?" Owen asked before he could stop himself. The man's smile deepened. "You may call me Lucien." Lucian. The name rolled in Owen's mind like a whispered secret. It suited him. Timeless, dangerous, enticing. Lucian took another step closer, and Owen realized too late that his back was now pressed against the wooden counter. Trapped. "You should rest, Owen," Lucian murmured, his voice like silk wrapped around steel. "Tomorrow will be interesting." Owen blinked. "How do you know my name?" Lucian only smirked. Then, in a blink, he was gone. Owen sucked in a breath, whipping his head around. The hall was empty. No footsteps, no sign that Lucian had ever been there. Just silence, thick and suffocating. His pulse pounded as he hurried back to his room, slamming the door behind him. He locked it, twice, before pressing his back against it. His breath came fast and uneven. His mind raced. He should leave, get in his car, and drive as far from this place as possible. But he knew deep down that Scarlet Moon was not finished with him. And neither was Lucian.